Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Big Bros podcast. If it is your first time joining, welcome. My name is Ilan, and I'm joined by my lovely friend and co-host, Jeremy. But more importantly, today we are joined by Joey Woodley, who is an Australian actor, comedian, and content creator, best known for his relatable TikTok and Instagram videos that capture the humour, awkwardness, and truth of everyday life. Through his mix of comedy, storytelling, and personal honesty, Joey has built a strong connection with young Aussies whilst also using his platform to open up broader conversations around mental health, vulnerability, and the pressures young people face today. Joey Woodley, thanks for coming on the Big Bros podcast.
That was lovely. That was really nice.
We love to pump up our guests.
Yeah.
It is I think it is an opening tradition of our show, and it is one that's here to stay. So
Well, they're often not going to do it themselves, are they? Because they're all humble figures. So, just like yourself,
Yeah,
mate.
imagine
So-
I was writing it out.
Mate, for people who only know you from TikTok, who is Joey Woodley off and behind the camera?
A big blonde idiot. No. He is. I'd like to think very caring. He's very much a family man. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and hangs out with. Met Jeremy down
Start of the year, wasn't
start of the year. Yeah. So mate, I just love hanging out with my mates away from doing all this sort of stuff, but. As I was saying pre-recording that this sort of stuff beats digging holes, so it's great, and I'd just like to think of myself family man, mates, and wear my heart on my sleeve.
it? Love that, mate. The most important qualities for sure, and I think that's definitely the reoccurring characteristics and theme that most people say as well when they come on the show, and it just shows that you can have all the followers in the world, all the fame in the world. I think, you're close to your million now on TikTok closing in, but at the end of the day, it's the people that matter most in life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And has that always been the case for you? Because, I mean, we like to talk about what it actually feels like to have such notoriety, especially online and on all these followers. Does it look like a number to you? Do you actually ever feel the gravity of what that feels like?
I think one thing with me was when I first started out, you wanted the numbers to grow, and you took so much pride in seeing how many numbers you're at followers wise, and then nowadays I don't see it probably how other people see it. They go nearly 1 million or 900,000, and I haven't really seen that purely because. Not to sound sort of arrogant, but doing this came to me quite easily, so it just naturally sort of grew itself. And I know people take a lot of pride in getting their numbers up and all that sort of stuff, and that's great. But I think for me, it's just important to put myself out there and do what I love doing, and also tell a bit of a story doing it. So. To me, I just look at it and, it's great and I'm grateful, but it's nothing more than that.
Well, talk to us a bit about what inspired you to start posting content and showing that creative side of you. Were you always that creative person?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I was actually rather shy, and I probably still am. I think just a bit of sort of social anxiety. So I was never, all these actors and creatives were the type of kids to do a play for the family, and that was never me because I was too shy. I always knew that the creative world was me, but it took a while to sort of come out, and then when I started posting, it was just weight off the shoulders, and even at school I didn't do drama because. That just wasn't really a thing where I was at, and my mates weren't in that sort of field. But I think when TikTok sort of started, it was just such a great outlet to really show, what I'm passionate about. And I'd been doing acting courses prior to that. And what you learn is that everyone, your mates who have no clue about the creative or the acting or the content industry actually love what you do. And that's one of my biggest regrets at school, was not doing, the school plays or anything like that, because I think you'd learn that, whilst there's a stigma around doing that sort of stuff, and the theatre kids, it's a proud moment for friends seeing your mates sort of do what you want to do. And that's what I've learnt a lot more recently.
Well, you touched on it there, because there's no shying away from it that when you are in school, you just want to be the popular kid. You want to have that status that everyone else has. You want to be amongst your mates. You want to be aligned with them, doing everything that they're doing as well. And it is scary to go against the grain. And there's so much talk about, just follow your passion and do what you want to do. But to a young kid in school, like I know myself as well, when I was in school, it feels almost impossible to be that courageous, to make that move as well. I'm sure there were probably moments where you wanted to probably get that camera in front of you and do a little skit and maybe showcase some humor, but it just does feel like the most hard, courageous, scary thing when you are below the age of 18 and even after that for a lot of people. But going against the grain, it's that fear of judgment. I know I've felt that. Is that kind of how you felt in those school days?
100%, mate. I remember a lot of the time I'd walk into, the common room as such in year 12 and I was just anxious about, what I was doing and, how I was being perceived and all that sort of stuff. And I think if I was to give advice, and I think you guys would agree 100% that school ends and everyone goes their separate ways. So you might as well do at school what you want to do, to a degree outside of school. But, everyone goes their separate ways, and I think you just got to follow what you want to do in school. And as I said, I was so anxious when I walked into the common room and, what people would think of me or what I was doing or what I was saying. So I always had that sort of anxious sort of chatter going on a lot of the time, which was difficult, but you just sort of learn to manage it. And as I said, do what you want to do in school, and outside of school, everyone will respect it.
So how did you go with not just managing those anxious thoughts, but actually getting yourself behind a camera? What was the moment that you decided, doesn't matter what others are going to think, I'm going to do what I want?
Yeah, that was funny. So that's sort of where the TikTok started with the whole camera thing. I did a skit probably back in 2019 on TikTok when it first sort of got underway. And I remember, obviously, not many people were on the app, and it was sort of the as I've said this in a million podcasts, but the Addison Rays and the Charlie D'Amelios and all that sort of stuff, they were all doing their thing, and I saw this one bloke doing a Carl Barron sort of voiceover, the goat, and then I did it, and I sort of did it in a way where I could sort of act it out, and then I showed Mum, and she was crying, laughing, showed my brother, so I posted it. And then I kept doing the Carl Barron things. And then, in our group chat, our school group chat, you just learnt that everyone was sort of jumping on the app and seeing my stuff. And they were like, it's a pisser. And from there, I just went on to do my own stuff. And that was nervous when I got off the voiceover Carl Barron stuff to do my own voice and do my own skits. Because it feels more, because it's you.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, Carl's funny. Is Joey Woodley funny?
Mm.
And then... with a bit of trial and error, we found our niche and we found our crowd and just grew from there.
Yeah, it is funny there, finding your niche and finding your crowd. It's like any music artist, any DJ. You go to a doof and you hear a lineup of different DJs, and they've all got kind of their unique sound. In 2019, you obviously kind of jumped on TikTok when it was in its infancy. So did you feel like finding your uniqueness or your niche or your way of comedy kind of happen naturally, or did you try to think in your mind, okay, this guy is doing these types of impersonations, I can't therefore do that? What was going through your head when trying to find your niche?
I think it was just staying natural to who I am. And yeah, you see sort of other people doing their sort of thing. Liam Dowling was one that he actually, he called me, he's like, what's TikTok like? I'm like, I don't know, that's good. Jump on it and then start filming stuff. And so he was actually first to kind of do because I reckon I was still doing the voiceovers at that stage, and he did the dad and son footy skit.
Yeah.
And I've gone, okay, well, take a leaf out of that book and start doing my own sort of stuff. But it was always just staying natural to me, and I think I'm very lucky. I'd be curious to know if I jumped on TikTok any later to see where I'm at, because there is a lot of creators now But I always just sort of did what I wanted to do and showcase what I wanted to showcase, and yeah, it's paid off in the end, I reckon.
You started shifting from like humor and storytelling to a little bit more of a mental health awareness side of things. What was the inspiration for that?
Well, my comedy videos weren't going well, so I'm just like, how do I get clicks? No,
Truth be told.
yeah, truth be told, hungover on a Sunday, need some love. No, demons. Mate, as I said, I think outside of what I do, I'm a family man, I'm a mate's man, and I've always worn my heart on my sleeve, and I always wore it on my sleeve with, mum and dad and family and mates and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, all my friends and my family know where my sort of mental state's at, so that's all good, and they appreciate that. So I'll put it out to the public because I'm lucky enough to have this following, and if you can help, just one person, then I reckon you're doing all right. And then, seemed to help a few more than one, which was nice.
Incredible. Is there almost that feeling of security is the wrong word, but when you've got a big following, right? You've got a big following, and I'm going to use the numbers analogy again. Does it almost feel a bit more comfortable in a way sharing it to a screen that people are going to see it because you got the numbers there, but at the end of the day, it is just a screen versus sharing it, face to face with someone. Is there a difference in the sharing?
Probably. I think definitely, and I've sort of done a skit on it before where it's like, you open up to your friend, and like, whilst the intention of your friend listening is there, it can kind of get a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
It's like, so how you going? And then you're like, how you really going? And they're like, good. Sweet. And that's sort of the conversation, and that's sort of like, those mental health videos that I do in real life, you know. On social media, you can really go into the beefy bits of it, and then in real life, it's a much shortened conversation. But I would say there is a massive difference. And would I be able to say that publicly to people? I think yes, but I do know that some people would struggle with that and find it a lot easier doing it on a screen. So yeah, it is ultimately quite different.
Quite different, quite easier as well. Was it easier initially to do it via a screen because then you could actually see the reaction and see the response from people, and then get a sense of, okay, this isn't, so awkward to actually talk about, and it isn't so awkward for someone to come up to me and ask me how I'm going, because you've already done, I guess, almost like the pre-work. If you use it in like a uni sense, you got your homework, you got your pre-work before you enter class. It's almost like that pre-work phase. You
put the frame up and you're ready to build the house.
That's it. That's it.
No, and that's exactly what it is. And I think I would have been a lot more comfortable, which I did, posting that, and then people sort of rolling into me. And I knew I hadn't really seen much on the mental health sort of stuff, because I did mental health skits, and then I opened up about my OCD. And admittedly, the mental health skits, yes, it was good helping, but I also sort of did a little bit for myself and my acting to show emotion, and it paid off. And then I knew that there was, a little bit of a gap for it and a little bit of a, niche for it. And, I knew that if I could do that, then opportunities could open up, working with, mental health brands, Speak Share, who I work with frequently, all that sort of stuff opened up, which was great.
And for those that don't know too much about OCD, they may have some misconceptions about what it actually is. What is the best way that you could describe it for someone that doesn't know much about it?
Yeah, so OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, you'll hear everyone who has OCD, intrusive thoughts, say, the first thing they'll say is, people come up to me and they're like, oh, I'm so OCD, I need everything clean. That's the first thing an intrusive person will say, because they're like, oh, your OCD is not that bad. And, it's all sort of the same, that you get so addicted to a thought that can be so, it can be from having the table clean to germs to, a really sort of serious thought where you step back and you go, I'm not a good person. Like, I'm a bad person. I'm gonna do bad things. And that's sort of what I had. I had those bad things. The whole sort of keeping the table clean was never really an issue for me. But people that do struggle with that neat OCD, that's not different to what we have. The intrusive thoughts. It's just a different side of it. But it can be very full on, and it can consume a whole lot of your days. And I've wasted heaps of days sort of questioning myself and obsessively focusing on this one thought that I just can't shake. And as I said, they get pretty nasty and they're not fun, but opening up's one of the best things you can do with that.
Do you remember a moment when upon even reflection, it got too much?
Yeah, I remember the first time I had this intrusive thought, and I was in Byron with Mum, and I got in the shower, and I had this really full-on thought to hurt my mum. And I've just sort of gone into this panic and started sweating. I was in the shower too. It's probably too hot. And I remember I got out of the shower freaking out. And I sent Mum a message. Mum would have been just upstairs. And I said, Mum, I've just had this thought to sort of harm you and hurt you. And I was just crying, and I sent it, and then I went upstairs to see her, and I just remember thinking, is Mum scared of me, or is she worried to be around me? And then it was just sort of, Mum just sort of said, Joey, I've known you, I know every bit of you, and I know there's not a bad bone in your body. And then I started to learn that OCD will attack the people you love most.
Really?
Thank you for sharing that.
That's all right.
So that I think for a lot of people who, it's not uncommon. They might be clean freaks and they'll label themselves as OCD, or they want to be clean and orderly, and they'll identify with that label. I think people don't understand the impact of the intrusive thought, because you'll probably attest to this. Once you have you have the obsession, then you have the compulsion, which is the behaviour to try and quell that anxiety that you have. Something else pops up, and it sounds like this is something that you've gained a lot of awareness in. Did you find what's something that helped you, I suppose, in that realm? Was it going to a psychologist? Was it speaking to mates about it? Was it even getting reassurance from loved ones?
I think, yeah. So reassurance is the big word, which I'm sure you know in your studies and what you do. So when I first told Mum about that situation, I sort of felt more comfortable for when the thoughts started to come more frequently. And I'd always, when I had those thoughts, I'd tell Mum straight away. And the weight off my shoulders was always massive.
Wow.
Admittedly, when you ask for reassurance or you speak to someone, then your thoughts can sort of come back in a different way. And I know, sometimes... And, arguably you could say I make my own bed with this, but, if I have a big night and then on the Sunday I see, on the news that someone was king hit at a nightclub, I'd think it's me. I'd think I'd king hit this person.
Is this even if this happened at a different club, let's say you were in, I don't know, the Peninsula and this happened in the CBD, would you still think that was you?
It probably not to the extent, but if I was in the CBD or just in Melbourne and it was in Melbourne, I'd 100% think it's me.
Wow.
There was a time where, you sort of just want to call the police station and just ask.
Really?
You just want the answer. And then with that, once that sort of thought, goes away, or if I spoke to Mum about it, another thought will come up. And, it's just this constant loop of just thoughts that you can't really shake, and it's tiring more than anything.
What age did this start for you?
16, I reckon. When I was 16, I had a really sort of bad year. There was a few things that happened family-wise. I remember I got I've actually never told this, but I was on some dating app, year 10, whatever it was. And I remember I sent photos to this person of me exposing myself. And I remember the first time I sort of felt anxiety, I was blackmailed to send more photos. And I'd never, ever felt anxiety in my life. And then from there, it was a constant sort of thing, and I was anxious all the time. Wow. But it was a bizarre feeling. I remember it very clearly.
Yeah. Wow.
And then OCD sort of came in, and that was the same year the Byron thing happened.
And so then one thing leading to the next, did you almost have like this pent up emotion, this pent up like weight and the heaviness on your chest that you were only sharing with mum at this stage? Was it only being shared with mum?
Yeah, at that stage it would have been, yeah.
Yeah. And was that enough? Was simply just sharing it with one person, with someone like mum, was that enough?
That was enough. Yeah. It actually was. And, I think the thing with mum was she related. Difference was mum, when she had OCD, she couldn't tell anyone, the old generation of, keep that stuff to yourself. So mum was always if you get reassurance on your thought from one person, it's enough.
Really? Wow.
Eventually another thought will come, and, the idea is to let it sit. And people ask me on TikTok, when you get a thought, what do you do? And I'm like, you just let the thought, just sit uncomfortably. I'd be lying if I said that's what I actually do. I can't do that. It's too nasty to sit uncomfortably. And I'll always go for reassurance.
What does that look like? Does that mean just like, so the thought comes into your mind and you just let it like just pass through you?
Yeah, you sort of let it linger. Imagine, having a thought, harming your mum or hurting your mum or all that sort of stuff, even worse.
Yeah.
How do you let that sit without freaking out?
Well, I suppose it's the personal reassurance you can also give yourself. And I think, I don't know if you've ever done this, but have you ever actually written the thoughts down on a piece of paper?
No.
Or spoken it out loud?
No, but I've seen a bit of that.
I'm not sure if, look, it could be helpful for some people, might not be helpful for others, but I think what you're saying is it just shows how debilitating these thoughts can be. And it sounds like it's an endless struggle. There is an element of it, which is like, I think you made a skit about it as well, which is, and you had like the OCD voice, and then you were like responding.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the best, like what we call like psycho ed videos about how to actually manage OCD thoughts.
Yeah.
I guess nowadays, how do you manage it aside, like when mum isn't there and you can't get that reassurance?
I went on antidepressants, went on sertraline. Do you know that one?
Yeah, it's a very common one.
Yeah, went on sertraline, which is sort of OCD sort of thing. And yes, it definitely took the sharpness out of it, but it probably didn't fully sort of take it away. And then I met my now girlfriend, and it's sort of like, I said to Zara the other day, I'm like, you've been the other part of the medication that my body needs. So the OCD has sort of, with her being around, is definitely like next level subsided.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It almost shows, okay, so you got Zara, you had mum in the past, and still now, but when it first started manifesting, it shows that a form of treatment, I guess at least in your case, has just been people, like the key loved ones, which speaks even more so to broadly the work you do in terms of speaking, sharing with your loved ones, that it doesn't necessarily need to be a fix of you must go seek professional help all the time. Whilst that is incredible treatment and important treatment for a large variety of people, you're a prime example, mate. It just shows that a key form can just simply be seeking that reassurance and sharing that feeling with a loved one, someone that you trust, someone that you love, and someone that loves you at the end of the day.
Definitely. And look, I think the way you really put OCD in the grave is doing those, psychology appointments, because there's, therapy and I think it's called CBT. I was going to say EBT, evidence-based training Instagram.
That works too, mate.
Yeah. No, yeah, CBT. And that's the way you really sort of but that's letting it sit uncomfortably and all that sort of stuff. And I've never really been able to get through it. But yes, having loved one around has been massive, and Zara and Mum have been top tier.
Do you think acceptance as well, like knowing that it's not something that you necessarily need to fight, but perhaps it's something that you can make room for and say, look, I don't like that you're here in my head, but I'll make room for you, because the more I fight you, the more distressed I am.
Yeah, and that TikTok I made was funny. I was actually seeing a psychologist at that time, and I showed her, and she's like, "Can I keep this so I can show my clients?" Don't know if she did keep it, actually.
Educational video.
And yeah, I think sometimes, a skit like that, let's just say, for example, if the thought, isn't too full on, yes, I can be like, yep, chuck you aside, you're welcome, go your hardest. If a thought is really full on, which hasn't been the case, touch wood, for a while, I've always struggled to just let that sit and give it, the time.
It sounds like it's an ongoing process, and it's going to work sometimes. It might not be as effective other times, but I guess having made those skits and being as vulnerable as you have been, what's the reception been like from, I guess, your mates as well? Because in Australian bloke culture, for people our age, we don't really get too down and dirty with the deep and meaningful conversations. Most of our combos are around the footy, going to the nearest pub, going out, but asking, how are you going, actually isn't something that is often spoken about until it's too late.
Yeah, and that's I honestly do think we are getting a lot better at it. Those OCD videos, I remember the first one I did, so many of my mates messaged me and they were like, I'm the exact same. I'm like, Get the fuck out of here, you're the same. No, you're not. Incredible. Wow. And I was like, I would not have picked it. Vice versa, they wouldn't have picked it.
Wow.
And to know how many of us are going through that same battle, it's like, shit's easy.
Yeah.
Bring it on. But and from people that don't have it, just, they go, you're so strong for doing that. And yes, maybe, but like, it's just a way to sort of help other people as well. As I said, you want to help a couple of people in your lifetime. Yeah,
I love how that really ties into the Speak and Share. I think it was a somewhat recent campaign that they did where they spoke about how poor mental health or challenges can manifest in blokes and what it can actually look like. And it said, I think it's the check-in campaign, which you're wearing currently, and it's saying check in on the funny bloke, check in on the quiet bloke, check in on the loud bloke, all the different types of blokes, check in. And is that how it realistically manifested in your friendship group as well? Was everyone kind of a different character or personality, or were you all kind of a similar type of mold?
It's quite funny, and you blokes might sort of relate to this. I think this is not great, but you can sort of see why it makes sense. There's sort of evidence that the more you take the piss out of your mate, the more you love them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's part of our culture as well, isn't it?
So that's, you can sort of take that and be like, oh, they're taking the piss out of me. That's a good thing. They love me. That's great. And that's sort of how it is. And that in a weird way is a little bit of a check-in in a way. And you can always say to your mates, pull back a little bit, but you do know that that's their love language, and particularly with blokes. And I think it goes back generations where, blokes have always struggled in this area, and it's still sort of happening a little bit, obviously getting a little bit better. But I think the whole check-in thing can come in from a little bit of a Hawthorn suck sort of number.
I totally agree with you. We had this chat with someone else. Like, you don't have to always have the conversation of like, oh, I've noticed you've been struggling. What's on your mind? Because that can be bloody confronting, not just to ask it, but for the person receiving it.
Yeah.
I mean, just going for a walk with them, going to the park, kicking the footy, and just creating that comfort and rapport first can lead to so much else. I totally agree with you. Even just like, you know, giving them a little bit of shit because Hawthorn lost on the weekend, or, you know, you saw something funny that reminded you of them. I think that can sometimes be enough as well. And I think keeping it in the back of your mind. I mean, what would your advice be to someone who is worried about someone and they want to check in with them, but they are a bit uncertain about how to approach it?
Yeah. Look, I think the difference face-to-face is confronting on both ends. I think I always think a text is always a good way to go, and from there you can build up, texting to calling to catching up and just sort of seeing where they're at. And it's not like you go have a coffee and from the start it's like, how you actually doing?
Yeah.
It's build into it, because if you go into that coffee and you go, so how you actually doing? And they'll be like, yeah, no, good. Nah, just a little bit on, but nothing too much. How are you? So it's like, I think we need to just sort of, go in to see your friend or who you're worried about. Be how you always are with them. And then, I think, just a little bit of are you going all right? Once you've sort of just, broken the ice of the conversation a little bit, then you can really sort of get into the nitty gritty. But like, you've also got to know, whilst it feels weird asking it, whilst it feels weird for them, having to respond to it, it's coming from a place of love on both ends.
Yeah.
And then you go home and they go home, and then you go back to the text, and that's when you get the real message about, how grateful they are that you did that sort of stuff. And yes, we need to get better at the face-to-face stuff, but we're human, and it is a hard thing to do, particularly with blokes.
You know what? I really love that point that you said there, which was actually what happens after the catch up, your follow up, because that is sometimes the point where you might actually get the crux of what's actually going on, the truth behind it, because it might be hard for them in person to voice it, to process it in that moment when you're actually saying how you going, mate. They might freeze, I think it's a natural response from us, but actually upon reflection, they will walk away from that catch up. They know that, you've been very much genuine when asking them how they are, when talking about life. That will process in their mind. They will reflect upon that. And then by you almost, again, proposing, how are you, mate? Today was great. Hope you had a great time as well. That might actually be the trigger for them to then say something. Because a lot of time people do feel comfortable saying something over text rather than in person. So really key point there. Yeah, following up, I think is really good. So thank you for bringing that one up. And also I want to touch on with the whole, checking in with your mate and asking how you are going. I've always found as well, maybe where we lack in terms of our messaging around men and men's mental health. This is really hard because this is a skill that I think we just need to be better in as men. But it's almost like you needing to be better at decoding what's going on, or reading into what's going on, not in a very weird, intrusive, creepy way, but just picking up on little things and using it to your advantage in a way when trying to discuss what's going on with someone. Like what you said, rather than just saying out of the blue, how are you, mate? No, really, how are you, mate? Maybe it's as simple as, recognizing that they actually haven't been so verbal when actually saying how they're going. So that might be hint number one. They're being a little bit avoidant with how they're going. And then maybe down the line in your conversation, maybe you're having a coffee, you're kicking a footy, whatever it might be. If you're the one to actually be the first person to open up a little bit and just say, oh, fuck, work's been really shit and I'm feeling just a little bit stressed right now. And you make the first step, the first move to be a little bit vulnerable. That might be enough of a trigger for them to then open up to you. Because I think as humans, we like to open up when someone else is opening up, right?
Yeah.
We like to see someone maybe taking the lead, and then we might feel more comfortable. Because how the fuck can you expect someone who is really, really going through a tough time mentally to just open up when they feel like the floor is not so open yet? And you can be that person to almost open the floor.
Yeah, I think that's all very, very. I think one thing is, what you said about when you open up, they open up. I've seen a few occasions where that can sort of be a little bit funny, because I feel like sometimes when you're having that sort of deep conversation about how you actually are, and when you do get into the flow of it, it's great. But sometimes it's you feel like people are trying to one-up each other on their thoughts, and they don't actually stop and listen to what you've said, because they want to show that their mind's not as stable as the other person's, and that can be a really bad thing. So I take a lot of focus on just listening to what they have to say, knowing where I can help them from what they've said, and just never try and just say that your thoughts are worse than, because everyone in their own rights thoughts are very valid to them. And I think that's one thing we really need to work on, is it's not a competition. We're all here to be on this earth to enjoy ourselves, and just I think listening is so important.
100%. I think something you said there as well, it's like, I actually agree with the both of you. So I do agree that there's going to be times when you might be speaking to someone who's naturally more reserved, and you're like them, dude, I had the most fucked week at work. This happened. Please tell me, like, I don't want to talk about me anymore. What's happening on your end? Because you've kind of just like, you've showed them that you're being a little bit vulnerable, and assuming you've got that established friendship already. But I think as soon as you finish sharing, I agree with you. You completely just shut up and you just let them have the floor, and you ask them what would they want in that situation as well. Do you want a solution? Do you want to work at it together? Do you want just someone to chat to? And more times than not, they'll just be happy that you asked them that question.
Yeah,
I think that is such a true point. I wanted to ask you this point though. We've spoken a lot about how to actually approach the person that we feel might be struggling. But if you had to pitch to the person who is struggling but is afraid to open up, and they are asked, how are you doing? What bit of encouragement would you give to them to take that leap of faith and speak about what they're truly feeling?
Yeah, I think I've always said, particularly with my OCD, the best thing I ever did was tell mum what happened, that day. And the weight that came off my shoulders, I could not explain it. I had the feeling of anxiety that I'd never felt before, and then explaining it to mum, it just... The weight was incredible. So for someone who is struggling and sort of doesn't really know how to open up about it, it's a bodysuit coming off you, and you feel free, and it's just the most exciting feeling, and you can go on with your day clear-minded. So yes, it's hard, and it can be a bit nerve-wracking, but it's so rewarding. Mate. And the thought that I had, imagine telling mum that I'm thinking to harm you. You'd be like, okay, she's going to send me to the hospital. I'm going to fly out to some island where I'm, in a white suit, stuck there forever. It was so crazy, that moment when, you just felt heard and the weight came off. And that is honestly just my advice, and I could not stress it more.
That's incredible, mate. I don't think I've actually ever heard someone phrase opening up about mental health in that way, in the sense of there could actually be a gold medal, and oftentimes there is a gold medal at the finish line of opening up, almost thinking, how good can this be for me to actually get off my chest? This can be incredible. I can be completely at peace by getting it off my chest. I can stand there at the end of that finish line with a gold medal around my neck for doing so, because I think that's it. A lot of people think that if they do open up, that it's going to be a world of drama and a world of horrible things and negative things afterwards. But you're sitting here saying like, it was the best thing for me.
Yeah.
It was fucking awesome.
I'm a 10 times gold medalist for Olympic opening up.
Fantastic.
I don't lose.
There we
You
go.
don't lose.
I don't lose.
Oh, and I think that is the best form of encouragement. And it's like gold medals to you and gold medals to your mum and whoever is that person in the scenario. And maybe a lot of our messaging should be, whilst speaking up is important, a lot of the messaging for men might actually need to be listen up. Maybe that can be like a new campaign that we should be advertising a bit more. The speaking up is great, but how about let's listen up as fellas?
If someone takes that, we'll know.
All right, amazing.
No.
We're open to collaborations about it.
Look, even thinking about it now, a lot of times when you ask people, why don't you want to open up? They'll say, I don't want to burden them. It's like, dude, I think if you've got close friends, which I know you do, it wouldn't be a burden for them. It'd be like, it would give them a sense of privilege that you're even considering sharing your deepest and darkest thoughts with them. It's like, Jay, I've got the responsibility now to be a key person to hold space for my friend and sit with them in their despair, and hopefully together, let's get out of it together.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a burden. That's a fucking privilege.
No. And those people that do say that, I just say, shut up. Just like, it's just not that at all. Like, everyone is going to listen, and you've got people that love you and people that want you here. And that's what you got to realize is that, you're opening up about something that ultimately could really, set you off. So in what way are you burdened by, giving yourself the best opportunity to stay here and stay on this rock?
Yeah.
It's shut up.
Yeah.
Like, people want to listen. And shut up's quite full on, but if that's how you feel, shut up.
Yeah. Seriously. How are you doing at the moment, mate? Because we can see you've been doing the recent campaign with Speak and Share about checking in, and you've spoken about the horrible things that have been manifesting in the past, but you've also said that those crazy, awful thoughts haven't really shown up for a while now. So how are you doing at the moment,
mate? I'm career best, I reckon. Haven't won a gold medal in opening up in a while, which is a bit flattening.
On a sabbatical.
Yeah, mate. Really get back into it. No, I don't wish that to get back into that. But mate, I've been doing really well. I think a lot of my goals I'm starting to hit. Traveling for work and hanging out with elite sportsmen has been crazy, and there's so much more to come. And really doing what I'm wanting to do, and it's been crazy. With a really good acting agency as well. And it was funny, I wrote down in 2023 5 of the best Australia's top acting agents, and 3 years down the track I signed with one of them. So
wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Massive.
I'm really in a good spot. I'd love if the acting sort of kicked off more, but I know that's a process. But I've also got my socials, which I'm doing my sort of thing on, and I'm in a really good spot, and family's great. Sister had a kid the other day, 2 days ago.
Wow, that's fresh news.
Yeah,
awesome for the family.
I'm in a really good spot, and I'm loving life at the moment, which has been really
good, mate. So you've got unk status officially.
I've got unk status times 4.
times 4.
Times 4.
4-time unk.
Yeah,
well, unk doesn't actually stand for uncle.
What is it?
Uncool.
Uncool.
That's what I heard. I
didn't
thought it was
know that.
uncle.
Did you know that?
initially.
Really?
Yeah. Someone can fact check me, but I've been told.
I reckon we need a fact check on that.
I had a kid tell me it actually doesn't mean uncle, it means uncle, and I got to listen to the authority of a 12-year-old who is
who's across that.
Correct. It's like they are literally a lawyer when it comes to those sort of laws. So
we're going to chat. We're going to chat GPT.
Chat GPT. So this young fella is saying it's UNCOOL, not UNCOOL. LE,
Yeah.
which we always thought it was.
I'll go to the voice recording.
Let's have a look.
Oh, no connection.
That's me.
That's you.
alright.
It's a you
me
job.
being down in the dungeon here. So
Alright, but we're gonna find it.
I think we should do this.
But
live.
dude, that's huge. So you're an uncle.
I'm an uncle. Yeah.
You're an uncle.
Yeah. Brother's got 2 boys. Sister's got a girl, and then my other sister who had the girl the other day, 2 days ago.
huge,
Yeah.
yeah.
Here we go, back to ChatGPT. It is telling me that Unc status is the uncle that we thought it was,
Okay.
being UNCLE. So, Ilan, you can go and tell your little fella that it is just a simple matter of status in terms of where you're at in life, whether you've got nieces and nephews, and you can be a cool uncle.
All right, I stand to be corrected by Lord and Savior ChatGPT.
That's great.
Wow.
Mate, before we wrap up, we have a closing tradition on this show. It's called the Sweet Spot. As you can see, there's some lovely muffins here.
Superb.
And they are all yours, assuming you can answer this question. The question is really simple. Can you reflect on a moment in the last 6 to 12 months? When you reflect on it, does it give you a feeling of the warm fuzzies in the stomach? It's a sentimental moment, perhaps. It could be in your personal life. It could be in your professional life. But it's something you even look back on, maybe when you're driving in the car and the music is off and you're just thinking about that specific moment.
So many. And I know that's not the question.
That's all right.
I think the warm, fuzzy moment I felt, and, I could get pulled up by so many people on this for not saying them, but, obviously family, Zara, mates. But I think, my biggest achievement was looking back and seeing that agency that I wanted to sign with in 2023 and then putting pen to paper and that being the thing. It's something I'm really proud of, and, it just goes to show if you know what you want, work towards it and write it down. And when you write it down, look at it and achieve it. And once you've achieved it, write the next thing down.
Wow. Manifest the shit out of it, hey?
Manifest the shit out of it.
Yeah,
Love it.
works.
And write your OCD thoughts down. I think that works too. Now I know it
Good
works
night.
because this just works. So,
Well, Joey, mate, it's been an absolute awesome conversation.
no, lads, it's been awesome.
Thank you for joining the show. Where can people find you for those that actually aren't part of the 900,000 that might not know where you are?
Instagram is joey.woodley2. TikTok is Joey Woodley. Phone number is 0459. But just search my name and you'll be able to find it, I reckon.
Awesome. Mate. Thank you so much.
Nah,
for
thank
joining
you.
the
It's been
podcast.
so good.